Welcome to the Control My ADHD video series. My name is Grant, and I'll be one of the primary instructors for this program. Why am I here? ADHD is something that's been a big part of my life and my family's life, and it's something which I've studied in order to understand how to best cope with it and help others do the same. I jumped on the chance to be involved in a project that spreads this kind of information and support to help others. We're super excited to have you with us today. And in a second, we'll be diving into information which will start improving your life right away. But first, I think it's important to let you know what you can expect from us. Each week you'll receive access to a new training module on a particular topic, which includes a short instructional video with the corresponding toolbox of goodies, which might have things like related exercises, free resources, or an additional audio section, etc. We're always trying to keep things new and interesting here, with new styles of presentation, just to make sure you're still paying attention. If you ever have any comments of what you like, what you don't like, or if you have any topics in particular that you'd like to learn about, feel free to let us know through our contact form on our website, or you can even email me personally at grant@controlmyadhd.com. Now let's go over what ADHD is and why it's not a condemnation for the rest of your life. First, a clarification of the sometimes very confusing terms of ADHD. ADHD, also sometimes written AD/HD, is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. And it has three subtypes: inattentive, hyperactive, and the mixed subtype, which just indicates how ADHD presents itself. These subtypes basically mean that some people are spacey, some people have restless energy, and some people have a little bit of both. And yes, this does mean that you can have attention deficit hyperactivity disorder and not be at all hyperactive. Go figure. Now, sometimes the term ADD is used interchangeably with ADHD, sort of as an umbrella term, referring to both hyperactive and inattentive individuals. But often it is also used in specific reference to just the inattentive subtype, since there's no age. Okay, so far so good? Now you may or may not have known what all those different ADHD terms were, which are also reviewed below this video, but do you know what it really means to have ADHD? What's really going on inside your head and in your body? Maybe you've heard vague statements about ADHD being related to executive functioning and dopamine, but now let's go over what it really means to have ADHD in important ways that you don't often hear about, and also a few reasons why you should be totally, completely optimistic about having ADHD. ADHD does not mean some specific part of your brain is broken, which is often implied by media and even professionals, but rather ADHD is related to a wide variety of things, and most of these things you actually have a whole lot of influence over. Sometimes you'll hear experts saying that ADDers often have underactivity in certain parts of the brain, which causes weak executive functioning. Now, executive functioning is sort of the upper level control center of your brain, regulating things like planning, your attention span, switching tasks, organization, etc. Wait a second, didn't you just say my brain isn't broken? The good news is that your brain is constantly changing over time, and executive functioning is actually a skill that you can develop. While ADDers might start out with some difficulties in this area, certain practices and exercises can directly improve the skill. As just one example, multiple studies show that practicing mindfulness increases brain function in ways that alleviate ADHD symptoms. And don't worry, we have specific training modules to walk you through this, and it's super easy. Another way of describing ADHD is in relation to certain chemicals in your brain called neurotransmitters. These chemicals influence how your brain functions. One chemical might be bouncing around your head going, "Wake up!" while another one goes around saying, "Pay attention!" while maybe another one says, "Time for sleep." And unfortunately, ADDers lack the correct amounts of several of these chemicals. We always hear that ADHD is related to the neurotransmitter dopamine, which is true, but ADDers also tend to lack some or even all of the following: dopamine, serotonin, norepinephrine, GABA, acetylcholine, and potentially even more. But if you noticed, there were several neurotransmitters on that list. And this is why prescription medication won't ever be a cure-all for ADHD, because it doesn't target all of the neurotransmitters. So it can't target all of the difficulties that you face. It usually only helps with one or two primary symptoms, such as concentration and staying on task. But that still leaves a long list of other symptoms which we will be addressing in this program. Having low levels of those chemicals on that list might cause some of the following: inability to focus, anxiety, negative thoughts, irritability, hyperactivity, impulsivity, a strong feeling of being overwhelmed all the time, difficulty prioritizing and processing information. You might feel overwhelmed by certain stimuli, a feeling that you can't calm your mind down, so maybe you can't even fall asleep, even trouble remembering or learning certain types of information. Now, why does all of this happen? All these chemicals are ideally supposed to be ingested and created through your diet. But now here's the problem. ADDers often have certain genetics which causes the body to have difficulty processing and creating these chemicals without additional help. But you can't just blame your genetics. Most people without ADHD can get by living fairly unhealthy lifestyles without experiencing strong negative mental side effects. However, ADDers do not have that luxury. Add in a nutritional deficiency on top of an ADHD gene and bam, that's ADHD symptoms. So what's the solution to all of this? Well, there's three main approaches we take here at Control My ADHD. Number one is we work with you to help you discover which neurotransmitters you're probably lacking and teach you how to compensate. It can actually be surprisingly easy once you know how. Number two, we work through modifications you can make to your environment and your own life to ensure that your body is able to process and produce these natural chemicals to keep you happy, to keep you focused, and to keep you feeling effective. And number three, after making a 5,000% difference in our symptoms with number one and number two, we all still inevitably experience some shortcomings because of ADHD. Whether that's an inattention to detail, being spacey, maybe having the tendency to randomly blurt out inappropriate comments, whatever. But it's okay. We teach you to understand and effectively deal with these aspects of yourself, and maybe even use them to your advantage. There are countless contemporary and historical figures who've lived and succeeded with ADHD. Take heart in the fact that, when managed effectively, ADHD doesn't have to hold you back at all, and it certainly gives you a wildly unique perspective on life. So this was just an overview of ADHD in this program, which will be removing ADHD as a barrier in your life. Your first official training modules on creating a focus and a destination in your life to help you get where you want and to help you ignore all distractions. So I'll see you soon.